Okay, we're gonna get right into the cards today because I didn't do a review yesterday because I was working a charity event doing amazing commentary. At least that's what everybody told me. And we have 2 days to make up for it. The good news is we only had a couple of cards previewed yesterday, so let's go ahead and talk about those. So this first one here is labeled Spiked Megalodon. It's obviously not in English, so we're going on a rough translation here. But it's a 7 cost, 5/7, hexproof. When it attacks, scry 1. Pretty cool, costs a lot, probably only going to be played in limited, but it is a thing. Oh, I ruined, there we go, the card makes sense again. I almost ruined the whole thing by just shifting a button. Technology. Anyway, card's likely only going to get played in limited, but still cool that it's a thing that exists there, so just figured I'd cover it because it was up. Okay, so cards like Bolt Hound are interesting, because as much as I'm in love with Gruul Spellbreaker, I mean, we kind of have like a bromance thing going on. It's going to rotate out of standard at some point, and then you start talking about like what cards are you going to play to replace existing things, and this is a reasonable card to have in its place. Obviously it's not a 3/3 and it doesn't get the hexproof benefit, but when it attacks you do get to pump all your other creatures. Also interesting that it's a dog, so if you want to play it in any of the dog type decks that you've been seeing lately with the cards or the new cards from M21, that makes sense. It also is just a good aggro creature, right? It's possible even mono red decks want this, where you're playing all those little 1-mana haste things or whatnot. Like, this card might actually fit into a few different builds, so, it's an uncommon. You may want to pick up a handful of them and just sit on them, and know that they're going to have a place somewhere here in the near future. Alright, so Selfless Rescue Dog is a 1-mana, 1/1, and you can sacrifice it to protect another creature, give it indestructible to end a turn. Is this the card that the dog decks want? Maybe. I mean, when you think about it with Pack Leader actually allows your other creatures not to die from combat damage, but this could also allow your Pack Leader to not die to combat damage. So maybe that's the perfect spot for it. It's interesting. I thought it was going to be something like this because you do want some 1 and 2 drops to go in those types of aggro decks. So this is kind of a good early spot filler. Alright, here's another one that's not in English, but it's called See the Truth. It is a 1 blue and 1 for a sorcery. And this card reads a little bit tricky. So you look at the top 3 cards of your library, then you put one of them into your hand and the others on the bottom of your library. If you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, instead put all those cards into your hand. So what you're trying to do to get the most out of this card is find a way to cast it either out of the graveyard or from exile or anywhere else really for that matter, other than it actually being in your hand. And then you get 3 cards for it. It is sorcery speed, so I think that's going to limit it a little bit. But I don't know, maybe something like the Underworld Breach decks want this type of card, as if those weren't already a problem. But this gives them another tool. And maybe there's some other stuff too in vintage formats and whatnot that would probably enjoy this. I don't know if there's a home for it in standard, but if there is, the deck it ends up in will probably be pretty powerful. But not something I would go out chasing. It feels kind of niche and maybe only goes in 1 or 2 types of decks. I could be wrong though. Feel free to correct me down in the comments if people have already pointing out a better strategy for this card. Y'all, like, I mean, I don't even, I feel like I should just edit in sirens, or I should go get like party hats and a kazoo or something. Like, this is crazy. You know what I need? I don't know if y'all watch wrestling, but I need one of those trombones, like the dude on the New Day. I just need, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Like, this card is awesome. 5 mana, 6/6, vigilance, reach, trample, like all the things that green creatures do. And then when it attacks, you get your choice. You either get to make a 3/3 beast, you get to gain 3 life, or get to draw a card. Like, this card has no real downside. Like, it's called Elder Gargano, or Gargaroth. Okay, there, I got that wrong. And it's a 3 mana 5, or it's a 3 green, blah. Let's try this again. 3 colorless, 2 green. See how excited I am? And it's a 6/6. This thing is fantastic. Like, what? Like, literally, like, this card, it's my new bae. Like, I might have to take this card out to dinner, and I don't know, I might have to raise its babies. I have no idea. This card's amazing. Like, for 5 mana. You get a 6/6 with 3 ability. Like, you know what's amazing? That I'm gonna get to play Questing Beast on 4 and then this thing on 5. And oh, it's so good. So good. Like, you know what? I'm kind of tempted to just say, to hell with the rest of this video, and we could just talk about this Elder Gargaroth for the next 5 minutes, and I would be totally good with that. Like, I'm just gonna tell y'all, if y'all watch my streams, y'all watch my videos, guaranteed this card's gonna be showing up in, hell, probably at least 8 or 10 lists within the next month for sure. Like, this card's just cool. Man, like, honestly, I still don't even believe this card's real for 5 mana. Like, seriously. 5 mana, 6/6, 3 abilities, and then when it attacks, you get your choice of 3 more abilities, one of which is draw a card. Yeah, I'm in. That's all I can say. Well, I guess I said a lot of other things, but yeah, I'm in. I like this card. Okay, for those of you that don't know, the planeswalkers in this set are each getting cards that relate to them that also have a special frame made for them. And I believe they're also getting a basic land with a similar frame as well, which is just a cool thing. So if you like a certain planeswalker in the set, you can even flesh out like your basics to match the planeswalker, which I think is very cool. So something we haven't really seen them do before for an actual set. They kind of did something like that for the, whatever they called the special planeswalker packs that replaced the From the Vaults. But we haven't really seen this in a normal set, so this is cool. So let's read this. There's a lot of text on here. So this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. Okay, so in some way, if you've already burned your opponent, not attack them, it'll cost less. And this costs 5 colorless and a red. This is Chandra's Incinerator, by the way. And it has trample. Cool. When a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. So, as an example, let's say you lightning bolt your opponent for 3. Instead of costing 6, this now costs 3. So then you cast it for 3, and then from then on, every single time you deal non-combat damage, say another lightning bolt to somebody, it will deal that much damage. So this card should have a home, I would think, because even if you play something like a Shock, that's 1 mana, deals 2 damage, it does reduce it by 1, makes it reasonable. It's more of a finisher type card in some decks, but if you don't have non-combat damage, it's not really gonna have much that it does. So I have a feeling this card will get played, I just don't think it's gonna get played a ton. And I'm not sure what type of decks. If it would be like a black-red deck or something like that. I could see something with a Rakdos style deck, maybe playing Dreadhorde Butchers and whatnot. So when the Butcher dies, it deals damage, then this deals damage. So you're going to have to work a little bit to get this card to do its thing, but it is possible. All right, so we have more Chandra cards here. We've got Chandra for 3 red, +1, discard your hand, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play cards exiled this way until end of turn, which is pretty cool because this gives you access to extra stuff. Not so sure it does a lot on the turn you play Chandra. However, another +1 means you get to deal 2 damage to any target. So you can play this for 5, shoot something, which is nice. Just having steady damage also on your opponent is good, just to be able to hit them for 2 every turn. And then -9, search your graveyard and library for any amount of instants and or sorcery spells, exile them, shuffle your library. You may cast them this turn, and you add 6 red. That's pretty strong. I mean, if you just need to finish your opponent, you can go find, I don't know, a couple of 3 or 4 burn spells, and you get 6 mana to spend it, or to cast them. That's pretty sweet. And no drawbacks, really. She does have 5 loyalty, so that's a big deal. So you do have to activate her 4 times, and then on the 5th time you could use her ability, her ultimate. But overall, this is a pretty steady card. I think this is pretty good. I think red hasn't had a main deckable planeswalker in a little while that you really want to lean on. And this is one I think you could use, if for nothing else, just for the repeated 2 damage a turn, especially, or even out of the sideboard in those long grindy matchups where you just want to be able to hit the opponent for 2 every turn and give them something they're forced to deal with. I feel like I have to keep doing this every time one comes up so everybody's aware of all the dogs, but Chandra's Magmutt, which is a cool name, is 1 red, 1 colorless, 2/2, and you tap it and deal 1 damage to target creature or target player or planeswalker. Sorry, not actually creatures. So, it's okay. It's a 2/2 for 2. You can ping planeswalkers. You can ping your opponent. It's fine. Like, it goes into a dog deck potentially, but I have a feeling when we see the rest of the dogs that are available, this one's probably going to get edged out. Okay, now Chandra's Pyroling. This is the Chandra card to be afraid of. It's 1 red, 1 colorless, 1/3, and when a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Pyroling gets +1/+0 and gains double strike. That's the kicker there. Being able to pump this thing up 2 or 3 pretty easy and then get in for double striking damage could be pretty big. How big I don't know, but it does make it a little bit scary. The only good point is that this is on the ground, so it won't completely maul you. You can chump block it with some things, hopefully. But if they have anything that gives it trample, an Ember Cleave or anything like that, this thing could get real big real fast. So something to keep your eye on. I don't think it's going to like dominate things, but you could end up playing this as a key part of a couple of decks, especially if you're talking about something like the Cavalcade of Calamity decks, where when you attack, it triggers, you already dealt the damage, the thing's going to get +1. Like, this becomes the must block thing every time, and you can't kill it because it's going to have double strike with like a 4 or 5 power. So that's going to be very interesting to see where this card fits in. Man, the funny thing is I keep looking at all these cards in M21 and thinking, I'm going to get so wrecked during the early access event if I get to play, because so many of these cards have so many words and do so many things. Like this one as an example. Basri's Lieutenant, 3 colorless, 1 white. It is a creature, human knight, vigilance, protection from multicolor, which is already great. 3/4 vigilance, solid body. Protection from multicolor, great. Then when it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So you could make it a 4/5 for 4 with those abilities, or you could pump something else. And then when this card or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, you create a 2/2 knight. And that token has vigilance. So imagine playing a deck that you have a bunch of +1/+1s on things. Your opponent goes to sweep the board, and you're like, okay, well, I have these 4 creatures that all have a token on them. So I get 4 2/2s. Like, this is nice. This is nice. Okay, Basriket. This is a new planeswalker in white. Kind of cool that you don't just have Gideon again or Ajani. We're introducing a new white planeswalker, which is cool. 3 mana, so 1 white. +1, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Awesome. Let a creature fight with impunity, which is cool. Also interesting too is that it can fit in this whole +1/+1 counter motif that you're starting to see. -2, whenever 1 or more non-token creatures attack this turn, create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. So let's say you play turn 1 thing, turn 2 thing, turn 3 Basriket, you attack. Those attack, you make 2 soldiers. That's pretty awesome, and they come into play tapped and attacking. So this is a very aggressive card that fits into those white weenie style decks. Possibly if your dog deck plays enough white, it could fit in there as well. So yeah, something to think about for sure. And then -6, you get an emblem that at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So not only do you get a creature, you get to bump all your creatures every turn. Now granted, that is 6, he starts with 3 loyalty, so it would take you at least 4 turns to be able to get there and do it, but still a pretty powerful ability because it just lets you keep generating creatures and bonuses perpetually, really, at that point. Alright, so if you play any Commander, I'm sure you've seen this card tons. It's been reprinted in, I believe, Modern Masters products. I think it even showed up in one Commander deck somewhere along the way, but Solemn Simulacrum, 4 mana, 2/2, comes into play. Search for a basic land, put it into play, tapped. When it dies, draw a card. Everything about this card's playable, no surprise there. Weird thing, it looks like the T2 from, or the T1000 from Terminator 2, which I don't know what that means in this art. Kind of weird, but I mean, people seem to love it. It looks a little odd to me, but hey, different tastes for different people. But the card's good. Massacre Worm. This card was actually getting a little bit pricey for Commander players, so it's kind of cool to see this as a reprint in this set, so it's a card everybody will enjoy. I will say this is a cool control-ish card. When it enters, Massacre Worm is 3 and 3 black mana, so 6 for 6/5. Creature Worm. When Massacre Worm enters the battlefield, creatures your opponent controls get -2/-2 to end of turn, and then when a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. So not only does it sweep the board, if it kills a bunch of tokens your opponent controls, they also lose a whole lot of life. The other thing too is it's very one-sided. I mean, you do have to spend a lot of mana to get it, but it only hurts your opponent's creatures, not your creatures. So that's another thing to note. But yeah, good card's been around before. Expect it to see some play. And I think I'm going to end today on another sweeper here called Pestilence Haze. It's 1 black sorcery. Choose 1. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn, or remove 2 loyalty counters from each planeswalker. This is actually a pretty flexible and very interesting card, that you can play it against token decks, the mono red kind of weenie style decks, but it also has use against those Super Friends decks, right? Where they start kind of pulling away and you're getting to where each of the planeswalkers is going to ultimate. It is pretty cool to say, all right, cool, they all get -1s. Or if you're even playing something like, say, a Mardu Knights deck, potentially, you can go ahead and give all the planeswalkers minuses, and then, maybe split up your attacks and take out all the planeswalkers. So, interesting things you can do here. I appreciate the cards that are showing up in M21 so far. Like, this looks like a very cool set today. All right, that's all I have for today. I think we got caught up. We covered the last 2 days, and there's still stuff coming out now, so definitely be some fun stuff to talk about tomorrow. And again, let me know if you found things, Easter eggs here, there, maybe 5 minutes ago. I don't know. They're kind of just hidden. Just let me know down in the comments if you found one. It's kind of become a weird game that's mildly entertaining for me. So I hope y'all find them useful. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Remember to like and subscribe to this video. Hit the notification bell. Share the videos around if people just want some fun content. Bring them to the channel. Or check the description down below and y'all have contacts for my Twitch channel. I believe my Patreon's there. Also links for my podcast and Discord as well. But that's it for today. We'll have more reviews for you tomorrow.